This is a story about family ties that are severed in the name of money, betrayal, and, of course, unexpected twists and turns. Sometimes it seems that family members are the ones who need us the most, and sometimes they are the ones who can cause the most pain. Although I didn't quite understand how it happened, the moment my brother took away everything that belonged to our mother, I felt like I had lost a part of myself. And I, Sophia, a middle-aged woman who worked as a teacher, never considered myself rich or happy in the material sense, but I always appreciated having a family, and my mother left us a legacy in an old house that became a family treasure and quite a bit of money. But most of all, I valued her things: old photos, magazines, letters that reminded me of my childhood, of family warmth. When my mother died, I thought that this moment would be a new beginning for my brother, Mark, and me. Maybe we would finally find a common language and forget old grievances. But no, all my Narvi hopes crumbled like sand. Atha Marco had always been the one who cared less about finances, but always had an intuition about where to make money. I was more used to quiet evenings with books, to talking about everything but money. Perhaps that's why I didn't immediately notice what was happening. After my mother passed away, he turned to me and said that we should divide the inheritance. No, I agreed, because he was always prone to making requests that could be difficult for me. I wanted us to keep the peace, although deep down I felt that something was missing in his words. A few weeks later, I learned that he had not divided the inheritance fairly, and not only did he not divide it, but he took most of it, the house, savings, even some family heirlooms. All this came as a shock to me. How could I not notice? Aneka, he was always a bit cunning, but not to this extent. I can't tell you how I felt at the moment when I realized that my brother had just deceived me. I never thought he was capable of that. Okanana and my mom always taught us mutual respect, but Mark seems to have forgotten all that. He was always more on the side of money than family values. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was worse. It was a blow to everything I held in my heart. How can you rob a loved one? How can you take away something that should be shared? I could not accept it. I didn't want to lose my brothers, but I couldn't just let this moment go. And when the call from Mark came again at night, I couldn't even believe my ears. He was asking for help. "Sophie, I'm in big trouble. I've lost everything. I can't get out of this situation without your help." These words from that call struck me. I thought about how he had taken everything, how he had left me with nothing, and now he was coming back to me as if nothing had happened. I can't say that I immediately decided to help. But I was angry and confused, and I couldn't understand why he thought I would be around again. Perhaps he just didn't realize that he had already crossed a line that could not be returned. Over time, I started to think about why I might not be able to just leave him in the lurch. I've always been attached to my family, even if that family hurt me. He was my brother, and no matter how hard I tried to deny it, he was still a part of me, a part of my life, even after he disappointed me more than anyone else. I didn't know what to do. Should I help again? Should I try to forget everything that happened? At that moment, I felt the feeling of control reappear. He had come again, and now he needed help. But perhaps I couldn't leave him alone with his problems. But my heart was beating with fear. What if this was another deceptive invitation to play his game? I was faced with a choice. Am I ready to forgive and help? Will I give my heart to my brother again, or will I finally stop believing that family ties are not just words? Now the only thing left was to hear the answer to what would happen next. When my mother left, my brother and I hadn't yet fully understood what it meant. Yes, of course, we were experiencing a loss, but nothing could have prepared us for how everything that had been built over generations would change. The legacy she left behind was more than just material things. It was a legacy that uplifted us, reminded us of our roots, of our family ties. But, as often happens in life when it comes to money and property, all this was quickly forgotten. I still remember the moment when my brother Mark, unexpectedly proposed to divide the inheritance. He was always the one who thought about money more than family relationships. And when it became a question, everything became simple and clear for him. "We have to divide everything equally," he said, as if it were a matter that did not deserve any discussion. He didn't even ask me what I thought about it. There was no conversation about what this inheritance meant to both of us. It was just money. I sat and listened to him, not knowing how to react. His words did not evoke any sympathy. All these years he had lived his own life, he changed jobs frequently, had no stable income, and his own lifestyle was more like sadness and disorder than stability and peace. And now he was standing in front of me, so calm and confident, proposing that we divide everything that was left of my mother. "We have to do it fairly," he said. But was it fair? Maybe for him it was, because he knows how to find ways out of situations where it is beneficial to him. My mother left us 2 main assets, an old house, which, although not in the best condition, was still not worth as much as her bank accounts. So when he offered to sell the house and divide the money, I couldn't just agree. I knew that money was more important to him than any memories. Mark and I have always been different. He was the one who believed in quick money, often getting into various situations that were intended to bring quick results but brought little. I, on the other hand, have always tried to go slowly, calmly, and prudently. Therefore, when it came to inheritance, I tried to look at everything from a different perspective. Maybe I should have paid more attention to what he really planned to do with all those assets. Maybe I should have agreed on the distribution in advance to avoid such misunderstandings. But I didn't. And so, when a few weeks passed and I found out that he had already sold the house and left me without anything we could share, I realized that his goal was much worse than I could have imagined. I can't describe how I felt at the moment when I learned that he had taken everything. He didn't just sell the house and split the money. He took it all. And what was left, old photographs, things that my mother and I had kept over the years, had no value to him. I don't think he even considered it theft. It was just a fair deal for him. He always said that money was the only thing that mattered in life. And even when I asked him why he didn't respect his mother's memory, he just shrugged his shoulders. It was all old, Sophie. Mom doesn't need all that stuff anymore. And that was the most painful thing. For him, it was neither memories nor love, nor even a part of our family history. It was just old junk. And he sold it for money. I never thought that my brother, whom I had known all my life, would do such a thing. I was shocked by his indifference to everything we had. My mom always taught us to appreciate the things that really matter, not to chase money. But it was not important to him. At that moment, I realized that our family ties, even the strongest ones, can be destroyed by such trifles as greed. I realized that for him I was just a part of something that could be used to get more. And now, when he comes to me and asks for help, I can't immediately decide what to do. I can't take back what happened. But I still feel that maybe I should find the strength to help him. After all, he is still my brother. When my brother came to me, I was ready for anything. But not for what he said. His words were almost a blow to my heart, and I didn't know how to react. He looked tired, but for some reason I couldn't feel any pity or desire to help. All I felt was betrayal. I saw his eyes full of despair, but he had long since ceased to be the brother I knew. Now he was just a man who brought pain and emptiness to my heart. "I need your help," he said, his voice full of anxiety. But that wasn't what came as a shock. It was the reason why he had come to me. I was preparing myself for him to ask for money, but what he said was something much worse. Mark started talking about how things had gone wrong. He didn't discuss the details of his financial situation, but I could tell he was in some serious trouble. His words were confusing, but I was able to piece it all together. It seemed that he had not only lost all the money from my mom's inheritance, but he had lost even more because of his gambling, bad decisions, and promises he couldn't keep. But the worst part was that he tried to persuade me to help him without remorse. It wasn't just financial help. He wanted me to take on some of his debts. I could not believe it. How could he think that after everything that had happened, I would be ready to save him? How could he betray his trust, take everything away, and then ask for help? Mark, how can you be so shameless? I could not contain my anger when my voice betrayed my pain and disappointment. I had always considered him an older brother, a person who understands what is important in life. But now I stood in front of him and could not believe my eyes and ears. I didn't mean to do this. He mumbled, but his words carried no weight. I had long ago realized that his choices were not accidental. He had always taken the easy way out without thinking about the consequences. You took away my mom's legacy, everything she left behind, and now you want me to help you. I couldn't understand it. How could my brother act so cynically? How could he take away everything that belonged to us and now come to me empty-handed, expecting support? It was hard for me to believe that this was really happening. I don't think I ever thought that my brother could make such a sacrifice. After all, it was not just money. It was something that had been in our family for generations. These memories, these objects, they were part of our lives. And he took it away without any hesitation. Was money really all that mattered in his life? And at that moment I realized that his family meant nothing to him anymore. I can't help you, Mark. And not because I don't want to. I can't do it because of what you've done. I didn't know if this was a final decision or just a temporary outburst of emotion. But I knew one thing: it was impossible to help him after what he had done. I saw when I looked at him, I felt only emptiness. I saw a man who didn't seem to understand anything. How could he treat me as if nothing had happened? How could he take everything away and be left without a shred of shame? We've always been a family, he said, but these words sounded hollow. They carried no value. I remembered our childhood years, when we laughed together, when we experienced together. But everything had changed. And now, when I looked at him, I no longer saw the brother with whom I shared my dreams. Now I wasn't sure if I could forgive him. The brother I once loved had become a stranger. And maybe that was the end of our family. But what would I do next? Is it possible to turn back time? Is there a chance to change what happened? That night I could not find peace. My mind kept returning to my brother's words. He was on the verge. His face said more than any words. But he had problems. But that didn't give him the right to take away what belonged to our family. After everything that had happened, I was not ready to help him. I sat on the couch, staring at the emptiness. The painful feeling that my family was no longer the same as it used to be never left me. Then the phone rang, my brother's number. I hesitated, not knowing what to expect from this conversation. Would it be another attempt to manipulate my feelings? Would he come again with his requests and words of regret? But I picked up the phone, not having any certainty of what would happen. Can you hear me? His voice was calm, but I could feel the anxiety in it. It was strange because his usual steadfastness had struck me as lacking any emotion when he took the money. What now? I asked, not wanting to hear his belated apology. Want to offer you a deal, he said. These words immediately gave me an unpleasant feeling. I had already heard many promises from him, and none of them had any weight. I know you don't trust me, and I don't apologize for what I did. But I have one option that could save us both. His voice became more serious. This was no longer just a conversation about money or past mistakes. I started to listen, even though I wasn't sure what I wanted to hear. I'm willing to give you part of my inheritance, he said. But there is a condition. My heart skipped a few beats. How could it be possible that after he had taken everything, he was still offering me a part of what was rightfully mine? Something was wrong here, and I was ready to refuse this offer without even hearing what he had to say. You have to help me get out of this situation, he continued. My business, my investments, everything has gone wrong. I need your support to avoid bankruptcy." I laughed, though it was not a laugh of joy. It wasn't just irony, it was understandable disappointment. He was manipulating again. And he was trying to do it so subtly that even I, his sister, was on the verge of doubting him. "So you're offering to help me if I take some of what you took?" I asked, doubting his sincerity. He was silent for a few seconds, as if trying to find the right words. "Yes, but it's not just a return of the money I took," he said, a new note in his voice. "I'm offering you more than you think. And you can become a part of my new business projects. Invest with me. If everything goes well, you can get back much more than what you lost." His words were quite convincing, but my heart did not feel relieved. I realized that it was not just about money, but about something more, about control, manipulation, and the feeling that I was being used again. It was a scheme. He invested everything in projects where he was the sole owner. I was a smart woman and realized that his proposal was just another manipulation. He wanted me to join his business, even if it meant losing even more so that he could benefit. But the question was I ready to give up what I had left? After all, the offer looked tempting. The opportunity to double my inheritance. But again, it was his plan. Something in his voice, in that calm but sly tone, made me realize that it was too good to be true. I didn't know how to react. It was an offer I couldn't just reject without a second thought. What if I was wrong? What if he really offers me a chance for a new life, new opportunities? What do I have to lose if I refuse? These few days after the conversation with my brother were like a heavy fog in which it was impossible to clearly see what was really happening. I woke up every morning with a feeling of heaviness in my heart, as if all the circumstances of our life were coming back to me again, with no way to escape them. My brother's debts became my debts, and I couldn't get rid of it. When I thought back to that conversation, I remembered how my brother always made excuses for himself. All his problems were never the result of his actions. It was always because of other people, because of unforeseen circumstances. And now, his last attempt to manipulate me was not just a feeling of fear. It was a real comprehension of his dependence on me. "How could you?" I repeated these words over and over again, trying to understand why he took what belonged to us all. His debts had become his burden, and now he wanted to put that burden on me. And so, I found myself faced with a choosing: help him or leave him in this pit alone. It wasn't just a question of money, it was a question of what I was willing to do to save my family, to save something after he had taken everything. And if I agreed to help, it would mean that I would take on not only his debts, but also all the responsibility for his future. The fear of losing more than I had already lost was so great that I felt a physical heaviness in my chest. What if he didn't fulfill his promise? What if his business, which I was investing in, also failed? I couldn't afford to put myself in a situation where I would be drawn into a dead end again. I couldn't help but ask myself what made him do what he did. All these years he had been such a strong figure in the family. And now he was just a broken man looking for a way to survive at the expense of those who were still around. But these are not all the questions. Could he have behaved differently? Or was it just a disease of ambition, a desire to achieve everything quickly, even at the expense of his loved ones? "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Was a question I threw at him in every conversation, but he never had an answer. It turns out that this was all part of his plan. He never wanted to take responsibility, even to his family. His debts were not only financial. They encompassed his entire personality. He was poor not only in money, but also in his soul. This despair and fear had been a part of his life for a long time, and now it was flowing in my direction. I remember a few years ago, he looked like he had everything: a beautiful wife, a big house, expensive cars. But now that it had all fallen apart, we were sitting together again, like two strangers trying to keep at least a small part of what once was. The situation was complicated by the fact that I was not the only one he owed. His debts were scattered all over the world, and even if I agreed to help him, it didn't guarantee that he wouldn't find new ways to get me into even more trouble. My conversation with him was interrupted for a few seconds when I realized that all these years he was not ready to accept responsibility for what had happened. He didn't see the consequences of his actions, and even now, when he approached me again, he didn't realize that he needed not only money, but also an apology. He didn't apologize to us. He didn't apologize to my mother, who worked so hard to leave everything to us. And even now, when he asked for help, there were no real feelings, no remorse. I don't know what to do, I sighed. Nimamara, the choice was so difficult that I felt trapped with no way out. I sat in front of the phone, not knowing what to do with all this. Fear of what might happen next haunted me. If I said yes, I would be drawn back into this tangle, but if I refused, what would happen to my brother? How would he survive this alone? I realized that this choice could be my last chance to change my life, and at the same time, his last chance. Would I be able to make the right choice? All these days, I was thinking how much easier it would be to brush this problem aside. Just say no and close the door. After all, why should I worry about him? He didn't deserve my help. But there was always that voice in my mind that would not let me rest. It wasn't just a matter of money. It was a matter of a family that seemed to be disintegrating before my eyes. There was only one thing left to find a way to help him temporarily, without completely losing myself. It was the most difficult moment. How do you help a person who constantly shifts the responsibility for his mistakes to others, but does not let go of you? The moment I first decided that I would give him temporary help, I felt confused. It was not what I had hoped to do. I tried to convince myself that I was making the right move, that this help would not drag me into his debt trap. But what if this is just the beginning? What if I say yes, and then he comes back and asks for more? The choice to help temporarily was exactly that. I contacted him again, promised support for a while, but made it clear that this would not be a solution to his problems. And this time of help was only for the period until he found another way out, until he realized that all his actions had consequences. The very next day, after I agreed to help, I was overcome with fear. It was no longer just a matter of my money or debts, it was a matter of trust. I was opening the door for him to come in and take a part of my soul again. Was it the right decision? Will he get back on his feet with my help? Or maybe it was just a threat that I would continue to allow him to manipulate me as he always did. All these questions haunted me, and I had no answers. Nevertheless, I decided that I could help him for a while. This would be my temporary solution, a small step, but would it solve the whole problem? And would this gesture be a real help to him or just a pretext for even more manipulation? We met in a cafe, and he looked as usual. But now I couldn't help but notice that behind his words, behind that desperate look, there was more than just a request for money. More than just a request for help. I don't want to stay like this, he said. It was the first time he didn't try to pass the buck. He admitted that he was in a situation he could not get out of. Is he really changing? Or is this just another way to drag me into his problems? I gave him a certain amount of money, the amount I could afford without causing harm. It was not a big gesture, but it was my limit. I helped him, but I felt that it was no longer just an act of kindness. It was more than that, an attempt to put him on the right path, to make him understand that support should be limited. If I don't set a limit, he might come back for more money next time. And who knows if he'll stop there. Every time I encountered my brother, I felt a huge responsibility for his future. All these years, I thought he was able to cope on his own, but now I realized that he always relied on my help, even if he didn't really need it. It wasn't just a habit, it was a lifestyle he chose. And I was the one who supported this system. And yet, I realized that every action has consequences. And even when I helped him, I could not be sure that I had made the right choice. Temporary help could not be a solution to his problems. It could only douse the fire for a while, but not eliminate it. This is not the end, I thought as I left the cafe. I had helped, but it didn't mean that I had already decided whether to continue my support. Amethyst was just the beginning of a big battle, and now I have to decide whether to continue helping him or if this was the last time. My brother may come back, and I have to be ready for that. Oh, but this time I will not allow myself to fall into a trap. Time passed, but everything in me remained the same. Oh, I thought that I finally understood how things were going, that I could control the situation, and that no next step would surprise me. But the truth always comes when you least expect it, and I felt it the moment my brother appeared on my doorstep again without warning. This time his appearance was completely different. I couldn't put my finger on what exactly had changed, but something about him worried me more than before. There was an invisible shadow in his eyes that I couldn't shake. You have no idea why I'm here," he said as we sat down in the kitchen. His voice sounded different than usual, quiet, almost regretful. My heart started to beat faster. And I didn't know what he was going to say to me, but I had a feeling it might be something serious. "I want to apologize," he continued. "I know I've made a lot of mistakes. But I guess I was always hiding behind your kindness, and I can't do that anymore." What he said came as a shock to me. I didn't expect him to ever admit his mistakes. But that was just the beginning. His words literally burned my mind. And it wasn't because apologizing. No, it was because he admitted to something much bigger than just debt or financial problems. He slowly but steadily began to reveal secrets to me that I could not even imagine. "I took your part of the inheritance," he said, stopping me in my tracks. "I thought it would be the best decision. I didn't need you for this." My heart first froze and then filled with hatred. How could he do this? Anahana, how could he take what belonged to our mother without any shame? I looked at him and a storm of emotions erupted in my head. How could I not know this? How could I believe that my brother could be trusted? I had always thought that he had simply lost his way, that he was wrong, that he just needed help. "Are you serious?" I asked, barely able to contain my anger. You everything that belonged to us, and you're still trying to justify it." He remained silent, but I could see his eyes filling with tears. Whatever the gesture, it was desperate. "I didn't know how else to do it," he said, and a cuckoo got confused, and in the end I lost control. But I can't live like this anymore. I don't want to be what I've become. These words tore me apart. I sat there feeling all those years of support, all those moments when I believed in him, falling apart. Why did he do this? Why didn't he share it with us? Now I understood why he so often kept his distance, why he always felt like a stranger. "Do you want my help?" I asked. "Do you want me to help you now?" He answered in a way that sounded like he was trying to justify himself. I really need to deal with everything I've done. You are the only person I can turn to. But I understand if you don't want to see me anymore." I was overcome with a feeling I couldn't explain. Well, he was standing in front of me, desperate, and it seemed to me that I had to decide whether to leave him or help him. On the one hand, I felt angry for everything that happened and for putting me back in a situation where I had to choose. But on the other hand, he was my brother, and I couldn't just leave him, even after all his mistakes. I slowly got up from my seat, feeling my heart racing with emotion. Now I was at a crossroads. What was I going to do? Would I help him again, or was this the end of our connection? Meanwhile, as my brother stood in front of me, I realized more and more that it was very difficult for him. His words sounded as if he was trying to find a sense of control that he had lost a long time ago. But the more I listened, the more I felt that nothing could be taken back from him. It wasn't just a matter of money. It was a matter of trust that had been destroyed forever. You don't realize what you've done," I told him, looking him in the eye. "You took more than just money. You took a part of my soul, a part of my family. Now everything has changed." My voice didn't tremble with anger, but I could feel the struggle inside me with those emotions that were out of my control. I could not understand how we could have come to this. And how could my brother have betrayed me, his family, and most importantly, our mother like that? I didn't mean it, he said, and his voice no longer sounded as confident as it had before. He was full of disappointment and fear. But did it matter to me? I still had to answer the question that had been nagging at Meg, could I forgive him? And would that be the right thing to do? You took my part of the inheritance, and that's all you did, I said with a cold expression. If you want help, I don't know if I can give it to you. You have decided what you are going to do with your life. His face was covered with shadows, and he looked down. I could feel the tension in the room growing, and I realized even more that he was missing something important. Maybe even more than just money. But I couldn't let him go. I realized that my heart was striving to find at least some way out of this situation, even though I felt that there was no going back. All those years of helping him, supporting him, all this became insignificant against the background of what he had done. You were my brother, I said quietly. We grew up together, dreamed of the future together, made plans together. But what good did it do if you did this to me? The feeling of pain in my chest did not let go. My soul replayed everything that had happened over and over again, and nothing made sense. But the worst was yet to come. His words began to become more and more open, and he finally said something he had never admitted before. I had to do it, Lisa, he said quietly. I didn't have enough, I needed more, and I could no longer live in the shadow of your kindness. You don't understand, I couldn't do otherwise. It was hard for me to breathe from this confession. How could you act so treacherously and then claim that you were forced to do it? Forced, I asked, trying to keep my cool. You could have come to me, talked to me. But you chose a different path, the path of betrayal. In his eyes, I saw not only fear, but also the hopelessness that covered him. My soul could not leave him here and now, but I could not forgive him so quickly. I sat there with my fingers clenched into fists, trying to understand why he did what he did, why he chose this path. My head was full of thoughts, but my heart told me that the answer was not in words, but in actions. Meanwhile, my brother was sitting in front of me, and I could see his face looking more and more exhausted, as everything he was doing was pulling him into the abyss. But was it my job to save him? When I had long since begun to doubt whether he needed to be saved at all. Lisa's, he continued, trying to justify himself. I really need your help. I don't know how else to solve my problems. You want my help? I asked, looking at him. You took what was mine, and now you want my help. What do you even understand about this? Everything was not as simple as it seemed, and I was faced with a choice that had no easy answer. Would I be able to forgive? And would it really be the right decision? We sat in silence. I was trying to figure out what to do with everything that had happened, and my brother was like never before, confused and hopeless. His eyes were full of fear and doubt. It seems that he sincerely did not understand what was happening to him. The fire that once burned in his eyes, when he did whatever he wanted, was gone. And now I was looking at a man who was afraid of his own shadow. But why? I asked, my voice slightly trembling. Why did you choose this path? What happened? You were my brother. We went through everything together, and now this. My voice was mixed with the thoughts running through my head. How could everything have changed so much? How could all the closeness we had before disappear? And suddenly he looked at me in a new way. It wasn't just a loss of control. In his eyes I saw not just fear, but something more. I saw despair that slowly spread through his words. I was desperate, Lisa, he said, as if confessing something important. You don't understand. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't leave it like this. I felt like life was passing me by. He was silent for a moment, and silence filled the space between us. I didn't know what to say, because every word he said brought me back to the moment when I thought everything would be okay, when I helped him, when I believed that he could change his life. And now he was standing in front of me, with all the pain and heaviness I could never have imagined. "What do you want me to do?" I asked him. And although it was a difficult question, I couldn't hold back what was brewing. "I don't know, Lisa," he replied. I messed up and now I need help. I don't know how to get out of this." I fell silent, and the only thought that came to my mind was, what do I do now? Can I give him a chance? Or maybe this chance had already been lost. But suddenly he looked up, and a certain light appeared in his eyes again. I was surprised, because it was a completely new expression on his face. In his eyes, I saw not only despair, but also some kind of cunning that was alien to him before. "Lisa," he began, his voice changing slightly, "I have something to offer you. Maybe all is not lost. I know that you already want to distance yourself from me, but listen. I can give you back what I took from you. I found a way." I couldn't believe my ears. It all sounded like some kind of game he was playing with me. How could he talk about returning when so much time had passed, when he had gone so deep into lies and betrayal? "If you think I'm going to believe you after everything that's happened, you're wrong," I said firmly. You talk about some possibilities, but I see a man who does not understand the consequences of his actions." But he did not back down. He began to talk about some case he had allegedly found, which he believed could be used to turn the situation in his favor. My main thought was, can I trust this, or is it just another trap? "I've found investors, Lisa," he continued. I can take you back to the days when everything was fine. Only if you agree to help me." I stared at him, and his words began to spin in my head. Was he really offering an opportunity to get back what was lost, or was this just another way to manipulate me? I tried to understand why he was offering such help. His words were confusing, and even his gaze was not as confident as before. Was it possible that he was trying to save himself through me? Or maybe it's just another attempt to get something that doesn't belong to him. You don't understand, Lisa," he continued, coming closer to me. "It's not just money. It's my life that I lost. I need to restore what I've lost. And you are the only one who can help me." But the more he spoke, the more I doubted. Is it possible to trust him again? And what would it mean for me? What will happen next? Can he really bring everything back? Or are his words just another manipulation to get what he wants? And I sat on the edge of my chair, feeling my mind and emotions boiling. This was the moment when I had to choose. No matter how much I wanted to believe that things could change, that my brother get back on the right track, I couldn't forget what had happened before. My mother, our family ties, our heritage, all of it now seemed too confusing and uncertain. I could no longer just trust the man standing in front of me. And yet something in his eyes made me think. Lisa, understand, this is not just about money," he said again, as if trying to convince me of something. "I know I made a mistake. I have regretted losing your trust more than once. But believe me, I'm trying to fix everything now. Just give me one more chance." I closed my eyes, trying to figure out what I should do. On the one hand, this was my family, my brother, and even after everything that had happened, he was still close to me. But on the other hand, I couldn't forget the pain and betrayal when he took what was mine. Now he was standing in front of me, looking for help again. What if this was just another way to manipulate me? What if this is another step towards taking everything away again, like he did with my mom? And I couldn't afford to be as naive as I used to be. "What exactly do you want from me?" I asked. My voice sounded calm, but everything inside me was boiling. "What kind of proposal is this?" He was silent for a moment and took a deep breath. His face became serious and he said, "I am offering you cooperation. Understand, Lisa, I can't do this alone, and I know you know how to work with these people, and I don't want to lose what I have left anymore. Help me, and I'll get back everything I've taken. I can't do it without you." I thought about his words. It was really a great opportunity to get back some of what had been lost. But could I trust him? It was a question to which I could not find a clear answer. And the more I thought, the more doubts appeared in my mind. "I don't know if I can trust you again," I answered, looking at his face, which was a mixture of attempts at sincerity and anger at the situation. "You've already proved that you have no problem deceiving me. How can I be sure that you won't do the same thing again?" He looked at me in silence, his face wrinkled with worry and his eyes trembling with despair. Had he really changed? Or was he just finding a way to deceive me again? It was hard for me to make a choice. I felt both a sense of duty and fear of possible consequences pressing on me. It was an opportunity I couldn't just ignore. And at the same time, I couldn't and shouldn't forget about all those betrayals, all those moments when he deceived me and our family. I went to the window, looked at the night city, and tried to find an answer. My thoughts kept switching from one thought to another. Could I give him a chance? And if so, what price would I pay for it? "I know you have a lot of doubts, Lisa," he said quietly, coming up to me. But sometimes life requires decisions, and I'm asking you to give me a chance." I looked at him and felt my emotions clenching inside. I couldn't answer right away, couldn't decide what was right. When a look of hesitation appeared on my face, I said, "I will give you a chance. But not because of your words, but because of what you can show by your actions. If you really want to change things, you have to show that this is not just another attempt to manipulate me." He looked at me with a new expression in his eyes. It seemed he was really ready for change. Maybe things weren't so bad, and we could really find a way to reconcile. I looked at him and at my feelings. There was no clear answer, no closure. It was only the beginning of what we still have to go through together. But today I have chosen a path, and only time will tell if it is the right decision. And although this moment did not bring any final answers, I knew that I had done what I had to do. And whatever happened next, I was ready to face it. What does the future hold for us? Has he really changed, or is it just another manipulation? Only time will tell.